You're in an argument.
Someone says something unfair. Maybe your boss just dismissed your idea in front of the whole team. Maybe your partner says, "You never listen to me." Maybe it's a friend who makes a little joke at your expense, and everyone laughs, and you just smile, because nothing comes out. Then you walk away, and on the drive home, in the shower, lying in bed at 2 a.m., the perfect response hits you. Crystal clear, sharp, everything you should have said. You replay the whole conversation. You win this time, except it's too late. If that's ever happened to you, and I promise it has, there's actually a name for this. The French called it l'esprit de l'escalier, the wit of the staircase, because it always arrives when you're already on your way out the door. And here's what nobody tells you. This isn't a personality flaw. It's not because you're slow or weak or bad at arguments. Your brain is doing something very specific in those moments. And once you understand what that is, everything changes. Stay with me. The last part of this video is what actually makes a difference. Let me introduce you to two parts of your brain that are basically at war every time you get into a conflict. First, there's the amygdala. Think of it as your brain's alarm system. It's fast, it's ancient, and it does not care about being witty. The moment it senses a threat, and here's the key, it can't tell the difference between a lion chasing you and your boss raising his voice at you. To the amygdala, both are dangers. Both require the same response: fight, flee, or freeze. The second player is your prefrontal cortex. This is the part right behind your forehead. It's where your language lives, your reasoning, your ability to think of the perfect comeback. The problem? It's slow. And when the amygdala fires, psychologist Daniel Goleman called it an amygdala hijack. Your emotional brain essentially cuts off access to your rational brain. Neuroimaging studies have actually shown that during intense emotional arousal, blood flow to the prefrontal cortex temporarily decreases. Less blood means less oxygen, less glucose, and less ability to form words. Here's a real example. In 2010, a study from the University of Toronto showed that participants who were put in high-pressure social situations showed measurable drops in verbal processing speed. The more they felt evaluated or threatened, the slower their language centers responded. Dinga bahalta. Your brain isn't failing you. It's protecting you. It's doing exactly what evolution built it to do. Prioritize survival over clever conversation. The problem is that in modern life, arguments aren't physical threats. They're emotional ones. And our brains still haven't gotten the memo. So when you freeze and say nothing, that's not weakness. That's your amygdala doing its job, just in the wrong situation. And when the perfect words arrive later, in the shower, that's your prefrontal cortex coming back online. The threat is gone. The stress hormones have dropped. And now, finally, your language brain has room to speak. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Because not everyone freezes the same way. Some people go completely silent. Others explode. And some people seem to handle conflict just fine. They respond calmly, clearly, in the moment. What's the difference? It comes down to something called your window of tolerance. This is a concept from trauma therapy, developed by psychiatrist Daniel Siegel. Imagine a zone. And when you're inside it, you can feel strong emotions and still think clearly. You can be angry and still speak. You can be hot and still listen. But when something pushes you outside that window above it into flooding, or below it into shutdown, your language brain goes offline. Here's a story. Sarah is a 32-year-old marketing manager. She's smart, articulate, and can present ideas to a room of 50 people without a problem. But the moment her partner says something critical in an argument, she goes completely blank. She can't find words. She cries, not because she's weak, but because her nervous system has been pushed outside her window. Later, she sends a long, perfectly written text explaining everything she wanted to say. Sound familiar? Now compare that to someone like James. James grew up in a house where arguments were normal, even loud. His window of tolerance for conflict is wider, Not because he is stronger, but because his nervous system was trained in that environment. When tension rises, he stays inside his window longer. This is really important. Your window of tolerance is not fixed. It was shaped by your past. If you grew up in a home where emotions felt dangerous, or where conflict always escalated, your amygdala learned to fire faster and harder. Research shows that early life stress actually lowers the threshold for the amygdala's response, meaning your alarm system gets set off more easily. But here's the flip side, and this is the part that actually matters. Because the window is learned, it can also be widened. The nervous system is trainable, which brings us to what you can actually do about this. Okay, so now you understand why it happens. Let's talk about what actually changes it. And I want to be honest. I'm not going to give you a magic phrase that wins every argument. What I'm going to give you is something more useful. A way to keep your brain online when it matters most. Number 1. Name it to tame it. There's a technique from neuroscience called affect labeling. Studies from UCLA by psychologist Matthew Lieberman found that simply naming your emotion out loud or in your head reduces amygdala activity. When you say, "I'm feeling defensive right now," the language part of your brain activates, and that actually dampens the alarm signal. It sounds almost too simple, but the brain scan data is real. In practice, the next time you feel yourself starting to freeze, try this. Pause. Take one breath, and internally say something like, "My amygdala is firing. I'm not in danger. I just need 5 seconds." You're not suppressing the emotion. You're naming it. And naming it gives your prefrontal cortex a foothold to come back online. Number 2. Buy time without losing ground. One of the most powerful things you can say in a heated moment is, "That's an interesting point. Give me a second to think about that." Or, "I want to respond properly to that. Can I have a moment?" Most people think pausing means losing. It doesn't. It means you're choosing to respond instead of react. And here's the thing. The person who asks for a moment to think almost always sounds more composed and confident, not weaker. Research on negotiation actually shows that deliberate pacing, speaking more slowly, and pausing intentionally is associated with higher perceived authority. There is a reason lawyers don't answer questions the second they're asked. There's a reason good therapists pause before they speak. The pause is not emptiness. The pause is thinking. Number 3, the 20-minute reset. Here's a biological fact. When your body enters a stress response, stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol flood your system. And it takes the body, on average, about 20 minutes to metabolize those hormones and return to baseline. This is research-backed John Goleman's lab at the University of Washington. Found that couples who took a 20-minute break during heated arguments showed dramatically better communication when they returned. So when you feel flooded, heart racing, mind blank, body hot, you're allowed to say, "I want to continue this conversation, but I need 20 minutes. I'm not running away. I'll be back." And then actually come back. The key is this. During that 20 minutes, don't rehearse the argument in your head. That keeps your stress hormones elevated. Instead, do something that genuinely distracts your brain. Walk. Wash dishes. Watch one short video. The goal is to let your nervous system actually reset, so that when you return, your prefrontal cortex is back in the driver's seat. So, let's bring it all together. Next time you're in an argument and you go blank, your brain isn't betraying you. Your amygdala fired, your prefrontal cortex went offline, and your nervous system did what it was designed to do. And when the perfect words come to you later, on the stairs, in the shower, in the middle of the night, that's not failure. That's your brain finishing its job when it finally feels safe enough to do it. The French had a word for it, and now you do too. But more than a word, you have an understanding. And with that understanding comes a choice. You can name the feeling instead of being swallowed by it. You can pause without apologizing for it. And you can reset fully intentionally, so that next time, the stairs get shorter. If this video made you think of someone who always seems to freeze, share it with them. Not as a way to say, "Here, this is your problem," but as a way to say, "Hey, I see you. And there's a reason for this." See you in the next one.